All right. Hello, folks. Welcome to Tuesday. How you doing, Mike?
Good. Welcome to Tuesday. That could be a
Yes,
song.
welcome. I bet you have a theme for songs about days of the week.
Oh, yes, there is. I don't think it's in the spreadsheet, but it's definitely
Yeah.
in one of my .txt files.
So last time we were able to search through some themes and gather the themes together. We got basically a list of some of the themes. So even but again, we're doing sort of baby steps, small steps. So I'm going to share your screen if that's
When you say
okay.
some of the themes, I'm confused about that.
Yeah, so let's take a look. Let me switch us to that. There we go. So at the bottom, note that on line 11, we're doing the one. So basically, we're gathering all of the first. So we're storing the themes as an array in a column, and so this sub one is basically because it's one index based as opposed to zero like the rest of the world. At least I think it is. Actually, I know it is because our tests tell us. So we're getting basically all the themes from the first entry and ignoring all the other ones. But that was fine because that was, again, this, very thin slice of let's just make sure we can actually retrieve individual themes, get them all the way out, helped us define this new outbound port, this ThemeFinder, and then allowed us to implement the concrete one and test drive it all the way.
And you notice I just modified our Jira.
Yes.
We had checked off list of all themes. And
yes, which was technically not correct. Yeah, that's why I mentioned it. Yeah. So let's say hi to our regulars. Hello, Jonas. Welcome.
Hey, Jonas.
And Astrid, nice to see you.
Welcome.
So our next step is, as always, after sort of a very concrete thing like that, is generalize. So in order to generalize, we probably want to write and update our test or modify our test.
Must have been this one, JBC ThemeFinder test. I'm just guessing.
That's a reasonable guess.
Yeah. I think what
so yeah,
I want to close some files here. So
sure.
I don't need that. Don't need that. Config. What is that anyway? Oh, that's that. Okay. Yeah. Okay. ThemeFinder. We've got one test. All themes are turned by find all for single song with multiple themes. So now what's interesting is that one is, because they're all the first entry.
Right. I was gonna point that out specifically. Like the first one had money and donate. Maybe let's add some more maybe to like the third one, just to add another theme after daddy. As a side note, ChatGPT is apparently down, so people around the world are having to fend for themselves.
Oh, the trauma.
Esther's like, no, we decided we're not normalizing. We had a whole discussion about normalization last time. All right, so that test should still pass despite the fact that we added the second theme.
Should I run this one just as the class, or
yeah, no, just run this one. That's right. Jonas says, "Who wants to be normal?" Excellent.
Okay, passed. So now I presume we're going to crank it up and have it.
Yeah. So the next step would be we'd like to get what, 5 of them. So
Right,
money,
donate and heart. Now
daddy.
the order.
The order will be interesting.
Oh, interesting. Money, because we're not dealing with unique gifts yet.
Yes, we're not there. We haven't done the unique part yet. Yeah.
Do you think we should do unique first before we up it to? Because then we don't need to. Well, I guess do we not need to?
I kind of would like to take the. I mean, it doesn't matter too much.
Okay.
I'm
just not sure how it's going to come out when we do donate. Would donate go here?
Well, I mean, we could say we don't care about the order because we don't.
Right.
Or we could guess that the order is likely going to be row oriented. So money, donate, money, daddy, heart is what I expect.
Yeah. And that could be the experiment.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking, is like we'll learn what it is. That's my expectation, because we're going to do an unnest on the array, which should flatten it, but we should still be getting it row by row. So
now we run it and it fails.
Correct. Oh, that's not true, Astrid. If you're here, you are extraordinary. Absolutely. So we expect that to fail because it won't have donate and heart. And it does not.
Yeah.
In fact, it says so, but could not find.
Then we go back.
Donate to heart. Yeah. So fails as expected.
Yep.
So instead of select themes, what we want to do is, I think it's select star from and then unnest.
Like that?
It looks like it's most people do it lowercase because it's not a SQL command. It's actually a function. And then in parentheses, you'll pass themes, and you'll take out the array brackets.
And
yeah, just no, leave the rest. So start from array as I think we have to do a nested. We have to nest it. Let's see. So we unnest, that returns it sort of as do we have to? I'm looking at the docs.
Do you want to share a screen with what you're looking at?
Sure. Let me find it first. Why is that's the old version? So here it is. So let me share my screen. So I have to say it's really interesting. I've been doing I thought I had written down what the right commands were, but I didn't. And it's really fascinating to me. I know this is a bit of a tangent, but like this comes up as the first response, like, oh, that looks good. Unnest functions, syntax and essential queries. And all of them are just like, here's how you just unnest the array. Not what a full command of what you would typically do, which is unnest an array column in a row. So it does this, but that's like, you're not where are you retrieving that from? So it's got this inline thing. So I understand that. Okay, want to show it in a concrete example. And then they show another one. Okay, another concrete example. Concrete examples are great. And then like two-dimensional stuff. It's like all of these examples, it's like none of them are showing here's a table and here's how you extract it. Like
Right.
all of these examples are just like, we're gonna, in a sense, pretend that there's a table that has this data in it. And
Conclusion.
and then like, okay, but how do I do this? How do I use this? And this is sort of a case of like, what problem you're trying to solve here? What's your audience? What are they trying to do? And so that was completely unhelpful. And that wasn't the only one. I came across where was it? This one is different. This is Stack Overflow, and it's just a different situation. But like it's really interesting. Like how do you unnest? Okay, but you're unnesting. You're not just unnesting an array. You're doing it in the context of a select.
Right.
And so the Postgres docs. These are the array functions. And so, this is sort of typical for reference doc. It's like, okay, unnest any array. But reference docs unfortunately don't generally have examples. And so if you know what to do, and you're familiar with the structure of SQL, it's like, oh, this should be all you need. This one as well, it's like, okay, great, I know how to use unnest. And again, like showing a hard-coded example, and another hard-coded example, and another hard-coded example, and another hard-coded example. Like, are they copying from each other?
Right.
And it's like, finally, example number 5, how do you use unnest function on tables data, which is to me the number one thing that you would want to do. And so it's basically, so we unnest, looks like we just unnest, and I think Jonas already gave us that. So let's switch back to you.
Okay, let me get
but it's like, why is that the 5th option? Why is like that the 5th thing? It's like, so the way I would write this, and maybe I'll write a little blog because I keep forgetting how to do this, is I'd say, here's your table. Here's what you want to do. And they're like, if you don't know how to store arrays and tables, okay, great, but that's a different question. So let me share your screen. So we want to do select unnest and not star from. We will need a star from later on when we need to do uniqueness, but for now we can do that. And I think that's what we want. So it'll unnest and expand it, but what we want is as theme. So we should get the individual themes. So let's try that. So I expect it to pass modulo, maybe it's out of order.
Right.
Hey, look at that, it passed. Amazing.
Cold hard pass. Wow.
Lucky us. Yeah, if you ever want to get me on a rant, show me like examples that are terrible or non-helpful. But again, a lot of it is about, like, I'm not necessarily ranting about who these people are and what they're writing. They may or may not have a specific audience in mind. And this is why I always encourage folks to write up what they learn, because your point of view and the thing you needed answered might be exactly what somebody else is looking for. So yeah. All right. So we can check off Jira and we can do a commit.
I'm glad you showed us all that stuff.
Yeah, I think it's
and the rant was valuable, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I sometimes forget that it is really useful for us to show, like, how do we figure stuff out,
Right.
as well as ranting.
Exactly. Both are valuable. Okay.
Okay. Yeah, clearly I don't rant enough because I don't have enough views.
And content creators really spend zero effort. I don't know if you heard that from the CEO of Spotify. He just said basically the
No, I
content,
didn't.
it takes zero effort on their part to create music and stuff. And that, like,
I see.
it was like, what? Yeah.
All right.
Okay. Uniqueness.
Uniqueness. So there are two ways we could do this. One is let the database do it. The other is do it in memory. Hey, Simon, long time no see. Welcome. Yeah, I mean, writing documentation is hard. Again, it's the curse of expertise, which is why, as in anything we do that is going to be consumed by others, it helps to get feedback during in the process, so that somebody, especially feedback from someone who's not familiar with it, depending on your audience. If you're writing for, like, you should know this, here I'm just telling you some details, you should be able to figure out where that fits in the scheme of things, versus like something new, where you're a novice, and so it depends on where you're aiming at. Not all documentation should be aimed at novices. Um, it's actually kind of annoying when there's documentation where it's like, I know everything, and you're like, I want to know the specific thing about Spring. I know Spring. Like, just tell me the thing. And you're going through, like, here's how to create a new project, and here's what the Maven file. And it's like, no, just give me the thing. And there's a certain type of site that does that. It's like, let me start from scratch every single time. It's like, no, I don't care. I know how to set up a project. No, I know how to go to the Spring initializer. Don't tell me how to do that. Don't show me the Maven file. Just show me the annotation and how it works. So it really is, I think the hardest part is figuring out what your audience is, who are you talking to.
So as far as uniqueness, doing it in the database or in memory, pros and cons. I mean,
well, I mean, doing it in the database, the pros are we're retrieving less data from the database. And it's likely going to be pretty efficient. It's certainly not going to be noticeable, at least across the number of, even if we had a million songs, I'd expect it to be pretty performant. And it will return less data. Less data is almost always better, because the in-database processing is not where you're going to have performance. It's serializing that data over whatever network connection you have. Even if it's running on the same machine, it's still transmitting stuff. What was I going to say next? So that's the pros. The cons is we got to figure out how to write the query.
because it's weird with the unrest thing.
Yeah.
Is there?
Is it Shawnette Cal? Welcome.
Right down the street from me, if that's the Cal I think it is.
Yeah. Yeah, and so APIs are interesting. Like, who is your audience? How much of the domain do you have to explain to them? How much of the data model that's implied, and how much of the presumably they know how to call your API. But but APIs that's where it's like you want, here's an example, and here's another example, and give me if you're going to give me JSON, give me the darn schema. It is so frustrating to hit an API and like, okay, and here's an example JSON, but it's like 2/3 of what you could possibly get. And so you end up with stuff like, where'd this come from? Or what are all the possible values? Give me a schema. Oh, the company, not the place. So what do we want to do? Do we want to figure out how to do it? I think
I'm leaning towards that, but what are you thinking?
Let's give it a shot and see if we can figure it out.
Back to your screen.
So I think we can. I think if anything, we can just try the. So we want to basically say distinct. So I think we want. But let's change our test to be what we expect, and then we'll write it. So I think only money goes away, right?
Right. We're just doing distinct.
Yeah.
So maybe we should be changing the name of this method over and over again, but we are growing it. So we're growing it towards that goal.
Yeah.
So you think just distinct at the end?
No, so it's going to be so I think Astrid is basically where I'm thinking. So select and then distinct after the select. Whoa. And oops, you lost the unnest. Probably because you hit enter instead of tab, or tab instead of enter, one of those. I think I don't know if that'll work. I feel like what I've seen is we have to create another variable, but select distinct. What query language Simon asks? This is SQL. We're writing in the context of a repository, but this is all SQL. Let's try it. At worst, we'll get. I mean, we could, if we really wanted to be sort of much more spiky experimental, we could open up a database connection directly and get a console and start querying it. Yeah, because what we won't see is we won't see the SQL errors.
Oh, so now the ordering is different.
Oh wait, it worked.
Yeah.
Oh, I saw the 0 and I thought we got 0 elements. So
no, it worked, but
it worked.
That contains exactly as currently.
Oh, so that's interesting. So what order did we actually get? We got heart first.
So it did money at the end, the duplicate
and it
one.
did money at the end. That's an interesting order. But that's fine. Because eventually we want it sorted. So so we could say that this passed because we actually got the distinctness.
Right.
And now what we want, so let's check it off. Let's say, I mean, let's make the test pass. We can say it contains exactly in any order. And then we'll basically remove that constraint, or we'll remove that loosened. What's the opposite of a constraint? Because we basically loosened the constraint as opposed to tightened it.
Looser constraint? Looser?
I guess.
Okay.
So now we've got all unique. Yep.
Commit?
Yeah, let's commit. let's we got a new functionality passing a test.
Okay. Now sorting.
And now we want sorted. So again, we could sort this in memory, but come on, let the database do the work. So let's update our test.
Whoop, wrong one. This test. Okay. So we want this to be
Daddy donate heart money. I wonder if you select them all, if you can ask IntelliJ to sort them.
interesting. Sure. Let me undo it so there's something to sort. And
Control enter, alt enter, I mean.
alt enter. Sort content.
Do it.
Let's see if it works.
Yeah, that's what we want.
Oh,
I love IntelliJ.
Damn, that's good.
Why should we have to do any work? Let the computer do the work.
Wow. Yeah, that
all
was
right,
good.
let's drop the in any order.
Yep. And now we fail.
Now we fail. That's one of those things, like, unless you knew it was there, or unless you knew to look for it, like I must have done it once in the past. That's how I thought it was there. Like, how would you know? How would you know? Unless you I mean, unless you're like me, like I am definitely the type of person who will just read the documentation. Not trying to solve any problem. You know, I think I was the kid who read the dictionary, right? It's just, I'm just going to read the dictionary. I'm not looking for anything. I'm just wanting to know more. Yes, nobody expected the sort option. All right. So now we can now we can order by.
I forget, where do you put order by within the sequence?
I think it's at the end. So it's order by
ascending.
We have to specify what we want ordered. So since we're just retrieving theme, so it's theme ascending or just ASC. Yeah, I think that's right. It says ordering direction is redundant. True, but I kind of like to be explicit.
Oh, did somebody in chat say
that? No,
or you were just saying it.
I was saying that because IntelliJ was saying that.
Ah, I see right here.
Yeah.
No, I'm with you. I prefer explicit.
Yeah.
Running the test. Fingers crossed.
Woohoo!
All right. Thin slicing wins again.
Yep. All right. Honestly, that was a little bit easier than I thought it would be.
Yeah.
But that's again, like the how thin slicing really helps you is like just take it little step by little step.
Yep. Okay, drop down time.
Yep. A little more confetti. Hold on.
Yep.
There we go. All right. Should we rename our test method and perhaps rename the finder method now that we've gotten it all where we want it?
All themes returned by find all for single song. with multiple themes for single song?
Well, it's no longer single song. So with find all for
Do you even need to say multiple songs?
I don't know that we need to say that.
So should
All
we just
themes, yeah, all themes returned for all songs, I think is all we need to say. And then we can say all unique themes returned for all songs. I don't think we need to say by find all.
okay? So all themes, all unique themes
Yep.
returned for all songs. Is that right? Is that what I heard?
In alphabetical order.
Right.
Hey, another convert to
So
Linux and Rider. Linux, nice. So I think that's fine. Do we want to rename now the all themes and make it a bit more explicit? All unique themes sorted ascending or sorted alphabetically?
do we, or is that too chatty, or you think it's better to be explicit in the method name?
I feel like a little bit of explicitness would be nice. So like all unique themes, and then we don't necessarily have to say sorted.
We can do sorted. I'm just.
You want to refactor the base.
Oh, right.
So it gave you an option, and I'm not sure what you selected.
Let me do it again.
Yeah, Shift F6, not F6. Yeah, base method. Yep.
You think that's good enough, or you're going back and?
I could go either way. I tend to write it explicit because when you rely on Spring to generate the SQL for you, you tend to be really explicit.
I'm okay with that.
Okay.
And you?
That looks good to me.
Okay, done.
So I think that's it for any cleanup.
Good enough?
Yep.
Okay.
All right. So now we have a way of getting all our unique themes and in the right order. So let's pop back out now to basically to our adapter. So somewhere we have just below the HTTP level, so I guess it would be our song theme searcher. Somewhere we've got a test against that.
Yep. It's right here. Song theme
All right.
searcher.
So do we have a test for what are our tests? Why don't you bring those up? Yeah. There it is, that fourth one. Yep. So here we basically created one song, and we expected that the model, we actually aren't checking here. Search returns model with no, that's not what I wanted.
I think you meant this one. Oh, no.
No, it's this one down here.
This one.
Yeah. Okay. So what we want is if we do a blank search, right, that triggers the search page, the blank search page. And so what we want there is that when we get the attribute of themes, we should expect this because we created it with that.
Now, is this test connected
assume,
to the? Yeah, sorry.
yes.
What?
I was going to say, so let's go look at the implementation, because it may not be using what we think it's using.
Which implementation? Which method?
Let's
or
no, of the theme search.
that was weird.
So it does do it. Okay.
So in theory, we run all tests. It should work.
Yes.
Let's do it.
And it should be in that order.
Yeah, because that order is alphabetical already.
Yeah.
I guess if we wanted to, we could change the order on the input on line 63.
Well, here it is out of order. So.
Oh, you're right.
It shows that the order did change. Yep, all good.
Cool.
Wait
a second.
Yeah.
Why is it? Oh, there we go.
Yeah, there are no disabled tests left.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, that's why I like the check mark.
Yeah.
But,
oh, you like leaving the check mark?
Like I do. I kind of like seeing all those green things.
Yeah, there's a little bit of a dopamine hit there. Cool.
Yes, let's sort in the order of appearance in the year. Is New Year's? I guess New Year's Day is first.
Yeah. New Year's Eve.
New Year's Eve would be last, right? So is that New Year's Day or New Year's Eve? It says New Year's Eve, so your theme is imprecise. All right, so since we know that works and it actually retrieves the right model, now we actually pop all the way out to the HTML.
Yeah.
Actually, do we have the HTML? Why do I not remember that? I don't think we did it. So let's go look at the HTML for the search page.
I'm just making one note. Search page. What do we call it? The search home.
Yep. Right. Okay. So there's nothing, just an input field. So what do we want to start with? We want to just start with a drop down.
I think that was the plan, was to do drop down and then do into the multi-select.
Right.
We didn't work on tasks beyond that.
Yeah. Well, we'll get this and then we can plan the next steps. Yep. So what we want then is to replace our input here. We still want the name to be requested theme, but we want it to be chosen from the drop down. So we need to create a drop down element. It is not called dropdown. It is called select. So select, and then since we're pulling it from information in the model, we'll want to do a th::field, and we called it theme. So $curly.
Say themes or theme?
Well, what did we call it? I think we called it themes in the model.
Is this the model? No. Oh yeah, here it is, themes. Yep.
Yep. So th::field themes. No, that's not going to work because we actually let's see.
Are you doing some searching you want to share or no?
I'm just trying to figure out what we want. So we want the name to be requested theme, but we want it to pull the content from we want it to pull the content from the model.
So it'd be like a for each on and creating options based on for each.
Well, the select tag has two parts, so that's where I'm getting confused. Okay. So here I'll quickly share my screen. Yeah. So what we want is basically this stuff here. So there are two parts. There's I was right. This is the field, and then the options come from. So basically, it's one option per item. So we need that to be the basically the for loop to generate a bunch of options. So the select is the thing that gets sort of tied to the actual selection. So right now we have the input box with the requested theme. We want the select to be a requested theme.
Gotcha. So type would be theme and all types would be themes, plural?
Yes. So this will be themes. This would be in the loop to expand on this. So basically this is connected to that.
Right. And would we call that one theme?
Yeah, and that would be theme.
So on all
and this would be requested theme.
Oh, got it.
Right, because this is what gets connected to when you submit the form, the name value pair. This is basically that name value pair. So it'll take the name of the field, which is requested theme, and take the selected value, which will be one of the themes.
Interesting that the example has the same name.
Oh, their examples are terrible.
Ah.
All right, they're not terrible, but they're not usually again, problem of not, overly complicated examples as opposed to progressive revealing of complexity. Yeah.
Oh, this is by Timely, folks. Got it.
Let me add you back. So let's do, so select the th field is
is that right?
Requested theme.
Singular, yep.
Make sure to close the select there. And then inside that, we want an option. And that's going to be the th each.
And I forgot the syntax already.
Equals and then open double quotes. Or here, I'll just type it.
Yeah.
So it's basically theme from, and then from our model themes. And then we want th text to be theme, if I could spell it. And then was there something else? I think that was it. Oh, th value. Yeah, we need that because that's what will get assigned. Th value is
that requested theme or
no, I think it's actually also theme because this becomes the yeah. So the text is what we display. So sometimes you want a different value than what you're displaying. So if we were sort of assigning unique identifiers, then we'd want the value to be the identifier and the theme to be the text. But for us, we just want the want the themes. So I think that's
and then we just close
that's all we want. Oops. Sorry, I did that and I didn't mean to do that.
Wow. How did that get done? Interesting.
So I apparently
you probably sent a keyboard string.
Yeah, I sent a shortcut that didn't translate well into Windows.
Got it.
So what I wanted to do was that. Okay.
And what happens if you don't put the word theme there on line 16?
That's just for preview. So that gets right. So that's one of the nice things about the time leaf templates being this idea of a natural template is you could preview it. If you hover over on the right, you could click that, and we basically see a drop down with theme in it.
Right.
And
now we don't need.
If we didn't put theme there, then the drop down would be empty. I'm not sure what it would do.
Right. And now we get rid of this.
Yes, and we get rid of that. Yep.
Just to confirm. There we go. So then let's change this to select.
Sure. Hey there, let's develop it. Welcome. Welcome. So there's a question back here. Do we have a limit on our search? No. We're basically returning all unique themes. The expectation is there won't be all that many that we expect a problem. We will not want to fill all of them into a dropdown. That's just the first step. Our eventual thing is an autocomplete.
Yeah.
So
I wonder if Simon's question was about. Yeah, I was wondering if Simon's question was about exposing, leaving things open for SQL injection. But that's not really an issue because we're doing it through.
Yeah. I mean, we might want to do limits and paging once we get to the results.
Right.
But even there, again, we're not talking. Our data, at least initially, is not that large. But we'll deal with some of those later. Just looking to see if there's any other questions. Yeah, so there is for the songs, there's also sort of some ranking that we might want to do. And who knows, maybe we'll bring in a vector search since it's so easy to do with the libraries these days. We'll see. So vector search is a way of saying this song matches, in a sense, this song has more themes that you're looking for, and so maybe that's useful. Then this other song that happens to match 1, but this one matches 2, so maybe that's more useful and should be ranked higher. But that's a nice to have. While we're answering questions, Xproof asks, how do you document whether or not field can be null in your projects? Field of what? You're gonna have to be more precise than just field. Well, since that's not quite a self-limiting data set for a radio station, although I don't know how many songs, like how does a radio station acquire new, do they get sent stuff? How does that work?
So we still get sent stuff.
Okay.
It's a combination of physical and digital. Digital is actually still a problem because most college community stations don't have there's no good software for having a digital library.
Right. And we talked about this a little bit.
Yeah, the broadcast stuff is, top 40 radio doesn't have that many songs to deal with. So for our kind of radio, like our physical collection is over 120,000 items, physical pieces of music.
Yikes. Where is it all?
It's literally right next to the DJ booth.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe I have a picture of it. Let me see.
Yeah, so I mean, you'd want a system that is dedicated and can handle that kind of volume.
Yeah.
Do you still have records? I assume you still have records.
Oh yeah, like
Yeah.
60,000 of them are probably
Yeah.
records.
Okay.
It doesn't like that. Okay, what about this? There we go.
Right.
There's a view of the library. The back wall you can see it's go away. On the back wall you can see is those are CD shelves,
Right.
and they
I
wrap
was-
around the room.
Right. Yep. That's a lot of stuff.
Yeah. It doesn't even count the thing we call the behemoth,
Uh-huh.
which is on the extreme right. You can't really tell where. Well, you can sort of tell this line here.
Yeah.
See how it goes through the blue
Yep.
poster? So that is a large cabinet that is like these wooden CD shelves at the end of this aisle,
Mm-hmm.
except there's 16 of them and they're drawers that come
Oh,
in and
right.
out
Okay. Okay.
like this. And that
Wow.
alone holds, I think it's 60,000 CDs in jewel boxes.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And we're getting rid of jewel boxes. We're moving to sleeves.
Yeah. I was gonna say jewel boxes. I know in my collection I got rid of the jewel boxes.
They're thick and they're brittle. And,
Yeah, they're always cracking and breaking open, and
yeah.
and it just seems like such a waste of plastic. So,
Yeah. And they're not recyclable as far as I know.
yeah. Well, plastic isn't really recycled, but that's a different rant. 120,000 row HTML table. A browser might have a little bit of difficulty with that.
But that's only albums, not songs.
Right, exactly.
So multiply that by roughly
What?
8.
8, yeah. So almost a million.
8. Yeah.
So xproof, how do you document whether or not method parameters and constructor parameters can be null? So again, what types of objects? Are these domain objects? Are these DTOs? Are these something else? Although it's pretty much either one or the other. Domain objects should just be never. You should just never hand in null, period, end of story. And then the way you document that is use annotations. So there's not null, there's null. Those annotations are useful, and their usefulness will expand if JSpecify ever gets off the ground. Then that will be. I don't think we use those in our.
I thought we did.
I thought we did too, but
Oh,
maybe...
no.
Oh,
the filter
okay.
mask is.
I was wondering. It's like I thought. So IntelliJ will sometimes generate that for you.
Yeah, it generates it for us. We haven't.
I don't think we've explicitly done it anywhere.
No, not by hand.
So I would use annotations to document that. And xproof asks, if you use hexagonal architecture, if you want to switch off Spring Boot, would you be able to? That is one of the, I wouldn't say top benefits, because it's pretty rare you switch frameworks, but it does happen. Especially if something lasts over 5 years, you're going to want to at least be able to switch frameworks. I think I've done that twice in my career, to take something that was non-trivial and move it to a different framework. But yeah, because everything inside your hexagon has nothing to do with the framework. So basically you you'd have to replace all your adapters, but presumably the value, if it's a fairly domain-centric application, the value is inside the hexagon, and stuff outside of it is just how do we connect it to the world. Yeah, I mean, even and we've talked about this on the stream before. I generally just do not want nulls in my domain. Period. End of story. Because and I think we did this or I talked about this recently, where it's like null means something, and so make it explicit what that meaning is. If it means it hasn't been filled in yet, have some way to indicate that so it's obvious and not just null and we don't know what that means. Yeah, so I think one of the bigger benefits is, for example, being able to switch one of your adapters from one mechanism to another. So maybe from a request response, single page application front end using JSON over HTTP APIs, and you decide that's too complicated. We just want to go and use the web as it should be with some HTMX on the front end. Then you swap out the adapter, and everything else pretty much remains as is.
And I guess technically it would be you would add an adapter
Mhm.
and then eventually get rid of the other one.
Right. Right.
And the beauty of it is that because the adapters don't talk to each other and are independent,
Yes.
you can rip out an adapter and nothing else should suffer. Which to me is one of the beauties of hexagonal.
Yeah.
You've got your thin vertical slice that
Right.
when you remove it, it's totally clean.
Yeah. All right.
Should we break before we do the next step?
When
did we start? Was it an hour ago?
Yeah, it was an hour ago.
Okay.
Let's keep people in suspense whether this works or not. All right, so we'll take our coffee break, and when we come back, we'll look to see if this works. So stay tuned for that, and enjoy the coffee.
See you in a few.
So a little commercial break after your coffee. As you may know, I have a board game called Jitter Ted's TDD game, and folks love it. And you can buy your own copy if you go to tdd.cards. But not only that, as you may know if you're paying attention to my streaming, I am creating the online version of the game because it's a physical game, which means you have to be in the same place. You can also host it, which is something I've done, but it's not as easy as being in the same place and certainly not as fun. But since lots of folks are remote, I'm working on an online version. And so if you purchase the physical copy, you'll get early access to the online version when it's ready. Probably towards the end of the summer is my, or at least summer here, is my guess when it'll be done. I also wanted to mention that I run a book club, and so every week we meet and talk about a book. We meet on Zoom on Sundays, and you can find out more about that by going to ted.dev book club. We are in the process of selecting our next book. In fact, the polls close tomorrow. So once we select our book, folks will get a copy and read the beginning of it. And our first discussion is likely going to be in a few weeks on June 23rd. I got the date wrong last time. And so it's open to anyone who wants to join. Even if you can't make all of the sessions, I encourage you to join anyway and drop in. If you don't care which book we select, then you can just hang back and wait until I announce it, which will be on Thursday, and then you can join in. If you're already in the Discord, then just make sure you send me a direct message to be added to the private channel for the book club. If you're not, just go to this page, ted.dev/book club, and you'll find a link to the Discord as well as some other information about it. And so that's it. Back to coding. So let's see. Just some comments. Yeah, future switch from Soap Whizzle. My gosh, Soap Whizzle. I saw there was a survey that came out from the Spring folks talking about sort of what people are using and so on, and soap came out as still being used, but like by some 50-some%. And I'm like, wow, that's a lot of soap. All right. Do you want to unmute yourself? There we go.
I was saying I've certainly worked in those kind of enterprise gigs where they're hesitant to move to a newer technology.
Yeah, there's a certain so Charity Majors, who's I think is still the CEO of Honeycomb. I follow her on the various social media, and related to some of the stuff she talks about is this idea of always be migrating. And so if you are used to and your software is set up and designed to be easy to migrate, and migrate is not just the database, right? So you may do database migration. So getting good at that is going to help you. Again, this is sort of all under to me, all falls under the banner of if it hurts, do it more often, because then you'll get better at it. And you may find ways to automate it and reduce mistakes and things like that. Because invariably things you do less frequently are the ones that cause you problems. So always be migrating, always be sort of ready to adopt new technologies, even if it's just like you were saying before, Mike, like keep the old adapter around, create a new adapter, try it out, see how it works. Can you do that? Like, can you do that in the first place? If you can, and you try out different things, then you'll be much better off when you actually then do have to change things for one reason or another. Yeah, and especially you may not change the framework, I guess brand is what I'll refer to it as. Like you may not change Spring, but you got to migrate from 1.5 to 2.3 to 2.7 to 3.1 to 3.3 and migrate your Javas along the way. The more you do that, the more frequently you do that, the better at it you get. And then it just, when you are then forced to upgrade because, oh my God, there's a huge security CVE thing, you're just like, okay, we got it, we're done, deployed just like another day. As opposed to a big fire crisis, everybody running around trying to figure out how to deploy because they haven't done it for 3 months. And yeah, and presumably if you're good at that, you probably have a good set of tests, which makes it then easy to try out the next version of the library. Oh, that doesn't work. That causes this problem. Or everything is fine and you deploy confident that everything works properly. I miss Visual Basic. I gotta say, I really miss Visual Basic. There are parts of it I don't miss, but I really miss the environment that was just so great. All right. Do we want to see what happened?
Yeah.
So run that.
Run the app. And actually, I forgot to do this off screen because I need to do the. I actually shouldn't do that until it's up and running. Okay, now it's up and running. Is it still called theme search? Guess we'll find out. Nope, it's called theme
Oh,
search.
nope. No, you got an error parsing the template, so we did something wrong.
Ah.
So if you can either look there or you can look in the in the IDE, but somewhere we probably messed up something.
You want me to switch to the ID?
Nah, it's fine. Basically, bname requested theme. So requested theme we didn't mark as a bean. So let's go look at our controller. So we did something wrong. So let's look at song theme. Boy, that's a tongue twister. Song theme searcher.
There we go.
So we just have it as a request param. It's not actually a bean. So that's fine. Let's go to the HTML. We'll just see if we can manually do that. So the reason why you might want to do it this way is if you have something in the model that says here's the requested theme, it's kind of that you already have, right? So if you were on some like, where it was pre-selected for you because previously you had selected it, but that's not the case here. Here we pretty much start from scratch. So I think if we just change it to name equals, I think it's name.
Oh, where?
So if we basically get rid of this and just say name equals requested theme. I think it's name. Let me double check.
Without the curlies.
Yeah, without the curlies, because we're basically saying we don't need you to
pre-populate.
Yeah. Yeah, it's name.
Okay, stop the server, start it again.
You shouldn't have to. So if you do, if you click on the,
I had already stopped it. So
you already stopped it. Okay, so you shouldn't have if you're just changing the HTML, you don't have to. What you do is you basically give it a little kick by doing a rebuild of the current file, which technically makes no sense. But if you let me show you in the menu. If you go to build and you basically say recompile this HTML file, which on the face of it makes no sense, but what that does is it refreshes the cache that the server has.
Got it. Okay, I'm gonna grab control. Come back here, don't need the hyphen. Okay, and
all right. We can do an inspect. And we'll probably see that the form options are empty is my guess. So we can open this up. Yeah, so our select is empty. That's fine. That's okay. We'll figure it out. So let's go.
where's the connection to the model again?
So line 13 should be the connection to the model. It should be
Themes.
pulling themes out of the model. So let's go look at the controller, the song theme structure. Do we have any songs in the database? Are we preloading anything?
I don't know. How
So
about
there may not be actually any themes.
let's go to the bulk import. Is it called bulk import? No, song import.
Song import. Now you have to auth.
Now I have to go off. Yeah, pardon me. Pardon me while I go off screen.
Yeah. Good old on error resume next. For those of you who remember, and that goes way back before Visual Basic. So I wrote a multi-million-dollar app in Quick Basic. Yeah, there's too much going on.
Interesting. I've got a
forbidden. What's going on? Forbidden.
Yeah. Is it still search import? Oh, song import.
No, remember we put it under contributor.
Ah, yes.
So what you might want to do is get that out of your autocomplete.
Okay. Off screen or on screen?
Well, you're already logged in, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so we can do that. So if you, so you should be able to, and then we don't want to see this anymore, so we can hit the X here.
And then the same with this one.
And then the same with this one. And then basically erase this. And we want that one.
Oh, there it is. That one. Yep. Okay, let me get some data. I'm taking control again.
Yep. So Astrid asks, why is the name is requested theme? Because that's when the form gets submitted, it's going to be the name value pair or pairs. In this case, pair, because it's a single select. So requested theme is the name of the query parameter that it should submit.
Okay, so we've got a variety of themes there.
All right. So now we know which we should see.
Roughly, yeah. Actually, let's.
Hey, 5G technician, welcome.
Just so we can reference it if we need to. Now
it's theme search. Yeah.
Yeah, that one.
Did you refresh the page?
I did an import, but I can do a refresh.
Okay. So did we so now I'm wondering if we've configured the app correctly.
Right, maybe it's not connected to.
Yeah.
Okay, where to?
So let's go to our configurator, which is in our song theme startup. Sorry, song themes config. Right. We haven't hooked it up to anything. It's always configuration. It's always configuration. So we want to get rid of that completely.
That meaning.
And what your cursor is on. Just delete the implementation.
Oh, this is the old implementation.
Yeah. No, you want to leave the method because we need to. Actually, do we? Let's search for, before you do that, let's search for implementations of this.
Of the class?
Yeah. No, so go back. So if you so what you want to do is, where is it? I know what the keystroke is on the Mac. Let me see.
Implementation of finding.
So Control Alt B. So click Control Alt B there. So that shows the implementations of that interface. So let's go to the JDBC ThemeFinder. That didn't go to it. You went to the wrong one. You went to the anonymous implementation. So go back. Go back to. I mean, you can do it from here, but I wanted to sort of show. So if we go back to config. So from here,
Control Alt B.
So it's like Control B with a modifier of Alt show. So you hit Enter and you went to the anonymous implementation. You want to go down to that. Yes.
Yeah, the color coding messed me up. I thought.
Yeah.
That was selected. It was this one. Got it.
So this implements ThemeFinder. This is in the JDBC. Will it just find it? It might.
But
just
all you need is a method name, though. Different, because isn't the don't we call it all? If we just go back, there it's called all unique. Oh, maybe it is.
Yeah, we
but they did a rename and it went all the way through.
Yeah. So actually, you can delete this bean thing entirely because it'll use what Spring will do is it'll say in the JDBC ThemeFinder, since it's a bean. And so we basically look at it, but basically it recognizes it as a bean and it implements ThemeFinder. So it is it should be a candidate for injection into where we need it. So this will have to restart and try again. So that run button becomes a restart button, so you don't have to manually stop it. It will just restart it. Saved you a click.
Yep. Well, next time you save me a click.
Yeah.
Okay, we're up and running. And there we go. It actually, we'll have to import again.
Probably, although you could refresh the page and see.
Yeah, let's just.
Oh, so it's in the database. Look at that. It worked.
And here's for reference.
Yep.
Oh, actually, that will not show at the same time. Do this, then it will.
So should we select Halloween and expect 3 songs back?
I think it's
or
4.
T-shirt. 1, 2, 3. Oh, it's 4. Yes, it is 4. I can't.
Maybe let's try Halloween.
No. Oh, there's other data in the database, right? Right. there's a bunch of duplicates.
Oh, right, because we've been running it. We've been dumping over and over again.
Yes. Because when we thought there wasn't data in the database, it was the select wasn't reading from the database.
Let's do a t-shirt is only one, so that should give us one for each import we did.
Right.
Yeah.
There it is.
So now we know how many we did.
Yay!
Yay! Cool.
All right.
So I think we should, before I forget, make sure we have duplicates.
Yeah.
Yeah, here it is.
Yeah.
We probably
So I think we can.
one up. What?
I mean, we could, drop the database and start again, but this is
True.
fine. Yeah, I mean, but we'll figure out how to deal with that. But we can check off implement the dropdown.
Yep.
Because we have implemented the dropdown.
And now this is done.
Yep.
Now we can sketch out next.
Well, let's commit and then we'll sketch out next steps.
True. Cool.
All right.
Okay.
So so our
Playing
goal.
poker time?
Yeah, playing poker time. They're all ones. So looks like we sketched out some next steps. There's sort of the
With words, yeah.
Still single theme, but it will autocomplete as opposed to having to look through a long drop down. Oh, why do we have failing tests?
Oh, whoops. Let's run all.
My guess is
The
because
bean that we removed.
Yeah, that's my guess. Is there's one of the.
My brain did at that point go, hey, maybe we should rerun all the tests.
Yeah.
And then I got distracted by some bright shiny object. Lord knows what that was, but.
Yeah, I figured it was the MVC tests. Yeah. They're just not set up to have the. They're probably just missing the reference to that ThemeFinder bean. That's fine. We can go look at those.
You want to fix that now, and then we'll.
Yeah, let's fix that. Should be pretty straightforward to fix. So let's scroll all the way to the top so we can look at the annotations on the class. So import song themes config. I think.
Now deleting that bean made the regular dropdown work, so we can't put that bean back.
Well, none of these tests care about the contents of the repository. So I think we can just add another mock bean, which basically says create one that does nothing. So let's do that.
You have to give me a little bit more instructions.
Yeah. So here.
Oh, a mock bean like there in 30.
Yeah. So just another mock bean that implements ThemeFinder. Yeah. And let's just run. Yeah. Let's just run.
This one?
Yeah, either one. works.
Okay, that's it. So let's run all now
Yeah.
just to.
Well, we got to fix the other MVC one because it has the same issue. So you can copy and paste that. So as a reminder for folks who are not too familiar with Spring, especially Spring testing, the because it's a web MVC test, and we could probably even be more specific and say but I think there's only one controller anyway. This is what's called a slice test, which means it does not do component scanning. So it won't automatically pick up the theme finder that we have unless we're explicit about it in some way. And so we do pull in the song themes config, but now we no longer define theme finder in there. So we have to then explicitly tell it to create a theme finder that can be injected into the controllers.
And the advantage of the web, we'll just scroll back up, get the name of that web.
The web
MVC test is that it doesn't spend as much time scanning and pulling in all of God's creation, basically.
Yeah.
So it's faster.
Right. That's yeah, it's much faster because it, as you said, it's like it doesn't have to scan it. In fact, it does no scanning. Pretty much. It must do some scanning because the web MVC does pick up those annotated with controller or REST controller, but it doesn't instantiate everything. That's the thing that takes time. So that's why what you can do is you could pass a parameter to web MVC test. Oops, sorry.
Oops.
I clicked there.
I was typing in the middle of another window. Sorry.
So web MVC test does take a parameter just like the import does, and you can basically say here, which controller do you want to explicitly import? We only have one controller, so it sort of doesn't matter. But what's nice is I mean, if you want, you can actually do it and just say song theme searcher .class. And so that way, when it starts up, it will only instantiate that specific controller. And so if you have a bunch of controllers, this can also save you time because it doesn't have to instantiate 25 controllers. And so these are slice tests because it's like you only need these things, sort of the minimum amount of stuff gets instantiated for you through Spring's automatic scanning and instantiation. And this is why, if you're going to write Spring-based tests, you want to slice them up as much as possible so that they do take less time to run. So let's go to the other MVC test.
I don't remember which one it was. Do you?
I don't remember either. So we can just run all the MVC, just not all of them, just the MVC ones. Yeah. Yes, Simon, that's exactly right. So it's pretty much, I don't like the word integration test. I call it a framework test. So it uses the framework. The framework gives it a mock HTTP server. So we can test things like, does the routing work? And then, so it's not running a real web server, but it's instantiated everything else that it needs to do to execute MVC. Yeah, so same thing. It's just ThemeFinder.
Oh.
Yeah, pretty much for dependency injection. I mean, the term always confuses me because, or it doesn't confuse me, but it can make it difficult. It's like, what are you referring to? Because there's dependency injection, which to me is pass parameters into constructors, pass dependencies into constructors. And the word injection is a fancy way for saying pass a parameter. So there's dependency injection, which is pass dependencies as parameters into constructors. Then there's automatic dependency injection, which requires a container, and that's what Spring does with auto wiring. So I love dependency injection. How else are you going to make things testable? Whether I like automatic dependency injection is a separate issue. What happened?
These, well, our test passed, the one we just fixed, but we've got some errors on.
Why do we have a?
We got a different error.
Why are we getting 404?
Let me give you some more room here.
Did we import the right? We may have not imported the. We did the song theme searcher, but this is the importer. We imported the wrong MVC class.
Oh,
that was my fault. I for some reason I thought there was only one controller. We actually have two controllers. So let's do this right. Let's go back up to the web MVC test annotation and specify the not song theme searcher. So this class is about song importer. Yeah, song importer.class. And so so this shows what happens when you do that is it only instantiated the controller we specified, and so therefore it was a 404 because what are you talking about? We don't have any controller that handles that.
there we go.
There we go.
I'm
And
going
so
to
for the other one, so for the other MVC test, the song themes MVC test, we can specify that one is the song theme searcher, I guess. I think we only have the two controllers, right? Yeah, importer and theme searcher.
Yep. Okay.
All right.
Let's commit.
Commit and push.
Fix MVC tests.
Yep. So front to back, less the browser, opening on one side, mock. Yeah, so the mock MVC, you can actually tell if you want. So for example, if you somehow think you need a real web server and maybe there's some reasons that you want to do that, you can actually pass a parameter to say random port, blah, blah, blah. And then Spring will actually create the embedded web server, either Jetty or Netty. I don't know what it uses by default now. And then you will have an actual real web server. So that takes a little bit longer because now it actually has to run the embedded web server. But for certain things, it might be what you need, especially if you're going to be running something like Playwright or Selenium or something like that, that actually does need a real web server to test against. I think those tests might be useful, but they're slow. Yeah, so there's some things around what's called application context caching. So there's some caching that Spring does so that it does not have to, for every test class, rescan and recreate everything. And there is some way that it does the caching based on what actually gets created per class. So I honestly have not fully grokked what it does enough to figure out how to optimize this stuff. But there are ways where you could say, look, just create everything you need for all these tests, and then you're done for all these tests, and that would be the most efficient. But we honestly have like 4 tests, so I'm not too worried about optimization. But it definitely, on any non-trivial project, you're going to want to figure out how the application context test caching works, because otherwise your tests are running slower than necessary and doing more work than they need to do. All right. So now that we've got a clean slate,
Sketch out the next
yeah.
bit.
So I guess we want to do what that one says. So we want to start typing. So basically, single selection autocomplete, I guess is what we're saying. Do we want to sketch out further than that? Since
Yeah,
we've
I'm
got
wondering if
the sketch below.
Yeah, just
move that up.
yeah, that's what I was thinking. Is it just descriptive text, or do you think it needs to be a box?
I think that's just describing it in detail, so that's fine.
Yeah.
We actually kind of did 21 as part of implement the dropdown, so that detail we don't need.
Right.
Unless you want to just
Both
move
of
it
these
up.
can go.
Yeah, I think that both of those can go.
I think we did. Oh, I see what you're saying. This could go here.
Yeah.
Yeah. Try to do like the hyphen beforehand.
All right, so this is going to be fun. Look at that. We're actually at the point where we're finally going to use HTMX.
Yeah.
So this'll be fun. So I think, let's see. So let's think about this. What we want is we want an input field. So why don't we bring up the HTML, because we're going to sketch stuff out there. And then let's maximize that. Yeah. So let's put this above the drop down. We'll keep the drop down there just so we have it. So we're going to want an input field that's of type text. So type equals text. We want.
Are we going to use that library we talked about?
Yes, we're going to use HTMX. Yeah. So.
Oh, I was thinking something else. What was that?
Oh, that's the UI library. We're not there yet.
Because that didn't provide the.
That doesn't provide. So there's kind of 2 ways to do this. One is you load all of the themes into the browser and then let it autocomplete from there. That's great if you've got 10, 20, 30, 50. If you've got 100, 200, 300, you're basically pulling in a lot of data that is just not a good idea. I mean, we could do that, but I think that's not a good design. So what we're going to want to do is so high level is when you start typing, based on some delay, we're going to basically so if you stop typing for half a second, it's going to call a method on the server saying, give me all the themes that match these letters. So if you type H and you wait and hang out, it's going to do a query saying, find me all themes that start with H. And so it's going to return honesty and Halloween and whatever. And then as you continue typing, it will do another search. And then we'll have to figure out how And then at some point you'll hit enter, and that will be basically fill in the autocomplete, fill in the text field. So let's add to our input, because we've got a bunch of modifiers that we're going to want to add there. So what I like to do is put the closing angle bracket on a new line.
Oh, this closing bracket. Okay.
Yeah.
Got it.
So then on the next line, autocomplete equals off, because we don't want the browser to start autocompleting.
How does the browser autocomplete off work? Is it coming off of a list that it's already in the HTML?
It's whatever the browser thinks it should autocomplete for that field, and usually it keys off the name of the field. Which reminds me, then let's give this field a name. So name equals theme dash query. So this field is not what's going to be submitted for the actual theme search. This is the query for autocomplete. So the results of searching here will go into another dropdown, or what looks like a dropdown. So we got the name, we've got the autocomplete off. Let's do hx trigger. So hx dash trigger.
Oh.
So what this does is basically tell HTMX, which we'll have to go up and include. So we want to set equals input space changed, and then delay colon space, and then delay colon 500 ms.
It seems awfully long to me, but okay.
Yeah, it's basically a bunch of things that we're telling HTMX, hey, when the
No,
input
I meant
is
the 500 milliseconds.
Oh, 500 milliseconds is too. We could always adjust that.
Yeah.
We can try
Let's
it with
see how it goes.
half a second.
Yeah.
What you don't want it to do is if it's too small, then it starts auto completing like while you're still typing. So we want to allow for some amount of typing. Yes, I think we'll need the closing tag to be a slash, a self-closing tag. We'll fix that. And good night, Astrid. Have a good evening, right? Rest of your day. I guess rest of your night. No, you wanted self-closing. So basically just
Gotcha.
slash before the close. Yeah.
Yeah.
We want to put after the 500 ms, comma,
within the curlies, or
yeah.
bringing the quotes.
I think we want. Let's see. HX trigger. We want it to trigger.
Do you want to share what you're looking at? Would that be
I'm just trying to look at the docs. Where is it? type equals search. So I'm basically keying off of this example from HTMX. So we have is, so I'm unclear what the trigger is.
Is it the /search?
Yeah, so it says the search trigger will be run when the field is cleared. We specify another trigger to search. So unclear what trigger does. Let's go look at HX trigger. Let's see. So what we want are, so we did a delay. We said how when it's delayed. We said when the input changed. Oh, I see. Okay. So this is a separate event that will trigger this whole thing. So what this trigger says is when the input changed after and basically has not and sort of has settled for 500 milliseconds, it will trigger this event, the post. And then the post, the results of that go wherever the target says, which is basically search results down here. And so we want to do something similar, which is when the input changed, we want the HX post, which will, in a sense, run the query, and we want the response of those to show up. What we'll want is to show up as basically what looks like a drop down underneath the input field. This search refers to this search. So I guess there's a type of element, input element, that is a search. So when you hit enter on the field, it does a search. But I don't think we need that right now, because I think just so you can sort of force the search by hitting enter. But we have the change delay, so that'll be enough for now. So I think that what we want to think about is what's the minimal thing that we want. What we want is if you start typing and you wait half a second, it should invoke post, and we'll just display the content somewhere. So that'll be our sort of minimal, sort of a minimal spike. We're sort of spiking here a bit, so we're not going to be testing this. All right, so let's see if we can get that to work.
Get rid of the comma then.
Yeah, so we don't need the comma. So basically HX trigger is basically a set of events that will cause whatever the, in a sense, action is on this field. So that's our trigger. We want it to trigger an HX post. And what's that endpoint going to be? We don't have an endpoint for that. We'll have to create one. So what do we want to call that endpoint? This is the endpoint where we'll do a post with what's currently in the input field, and we'll want the themes back. So I don't know, what do we want to say? We could just put it against themes as an endpoint.
Straight themes?
Yeah.
Like that?
Sure, why not? We don't have that endpoint, do we?
I think so. What was the shortcut to see all the endpoints? It was a cool.
If you click on Spring down here, and I think type controller. And so then we select MVC. So it shows, there's a way to just click here and then beam graph, or maybe not. Maybe I have to select on each one. So that's slash, that's contributing, and that's theme search. So themes is probably fine. There is a way to find all of them, and
yeah,
I only seem to come up with it accidentally. I never know how to like intentionally get it. There's I just don't use it a lot, so it's not something I've
yeah. Let me check my
become an
notes
expert at.
because I think we did it last week, right? And so
I know we did it before. Yeah.
I made note of it.
Yeah. So Simon, yeah, HTMX is a small front end JavaScript library that makes it so we can do the kinds of things we're doing, basically Ajax-like stuff, as they used to call it, with just, in a sense, data parameters or new attributes on existing HTML elements. It doesn't, so it's just JavaScript that basically does this for you. So like we're saying here with the Ajax trigger, it's monitoring, and when the input changed, and there's a half a second between the last key you pressed, it will go invoke the Ajax post for you, take the results, and put them basically where you target it to. So it's not Spring specific. It's a general front end library. Yeah, and so basically it's why should we have forms for everything? This will actually be sort of posting itself, and we actually won't need. We might still have the form, but we don't necessarily need it.
Control-Shift/.
Oh, so it does come up in the all search. Interesting.
Well,
okay.
no, I did Control-Shift/.
Right, but if you see that that's actually this is your standard search menu.
Right. Yeah.
So you could.
I think if you just come into it normally, like if I did Control-Shift-N, I guess it's still there.
Yeah, so it's there. Yeah.
Ah.
But there is a way to get it to appear down here.
Down there.
And I don't remember how to do it. I'll have to look that up. Anyway,
cool.
So oh, there it is. It's over here. It's in a separate thing. Thanks, Jonas.
I was typing into the window.
So there it is. I don't know why that. I don't know. Like there's a lot of things that the Ultimate Edition of IntelliJ IDEA does to support Spring, but some of these tool windows, I don't. I find like, why is this a separate tool window? Why isn't this part of the Spring tool window? I don't get it. Anyway,
so we decided on themes as the.
We decided on themes.
We do an import to HTMX.
We want. Yeah, we need one more thing, and then we'll do the import. So we need to do a target for the results. So we'll do an hx-target. And let's target. No, so the target here is an ID or a class in the HTML in the DOM. So we're going to make one. So let's do Octothorpe. No, I'm kidding. Hash, and then we'll say search-results. And so on line 20, let's create that, and we'll just create it. Yeah, we'll create a div, and the ID will be search results.
Interesting. It's not auto-completing it
because it doesn't know that it doesn't know about it just because we did it in line 18.
Right.
It would autocomplete if you now tried to reference it from line 18.
Right.
but it clearly doesn't know the other way. Or it doesn't know at all. All right. It may not, because it may not recognize the HX target as an attribute.
Right. Speaking
of, let's go grab it. Where the heck is it? We'll want it to grab it from the CDN. There it is. Let's see. Can I paste this into tuple?
I feel like you've pasted before.
Yes, I just want to make sure I don't mess it up. Let's see. Oh.
And I got it. Oh. Do I need to turn that on?
No, it's not in my clipboard, or it's not in the so undo that.
It's not in the tuple clipboard.
Yeah, that's something I need to do. Yeah, I'm not sure how to do the clip, how to share the clipboard.
Personal private chat?
Yeah, I'll put it in there.
Or regular chat?
Yeah, I'll just put it in regular chat. No, I'll put it in private chat because it's got some special stuff. Yeah, so grab that and put that in line, not in line 4. Sorry, that's not even the right place.
Yeah.
It'll go on 5.5.
Is that good?
I think that is it.
So now I'm curious.
Now it's so just because we imported a script, you'll notice that IntelliJ has highlighted these HX things because it doesn't know them. There is probably a way to set up a namespace for it, but I just ignore it. So, all right. So what we want to do next is yes, there is an HTMX plugin. Last I tried it, it wasn't all that helpful. I'll have to try see if it's been updated. So what we want to do, let's test drive. Well, let's take a break because it's been another hour. When we come back from the break, we'll test drive this endpoint just to return some data directly. And what we'll do is then use that to basically test this to see when we type, does it return, right? It'll ignore what we send in as the query. It'll just return values. What we're going to check is basically, does it
does the UI do its thing?
Does the UI do what we expect it to do? Yeah. All right, we'll take a break and then we'll go ahead and test drive that new endpoint. So stay tuned.
Coffee time.
So just a reminder to folks who didn't know, I am not only a streamer, but I'm also a technical coach and trainer. And so if your team or even you as an individual need some technical coaching, maybe you want to learn TDD, or perhaps you want to get better at refactoring or design, you can go ahead and go to ted.dev and go to the About page, and you can find out how to contact me. Or you can just send an email to ted@ted.dev, and we can be happy to chat for half an hour and discuss what your needs might be. If you don't need it, maybe you know somebody who does. So I not only help teams in organizations get better at refactoring and testing, basically all the stuff you see me do on the stream, and I also help individuals who might want to just improve on their own. So you can contact me on the Discord or via email, and happy to set up a short meeting to figure out if I can be of assistance. All right. So we want to write our endpoint. So let's test drive that. Your sound is a little.
That's why.
There we go. That helps.
Better? Yeah. It's funny how microphone placement makes a difference.
Yeah, funny that.
Yeah, weird.
So
where do we want to put it? Do we want to put it in song theme searcher?
Would
it be its own?
It's gonna. What do we have? Yeah, it's probably song theme searcher, since it already has access to the dependency that we're going to use, which is the ThemeFinder. So that's probably a good place to put it.
Yeah, we got to use the endpoint toolbar.
Yay. Yeah, so we're using it there on line 27, so we should probably put it in the same place. We could pull it out into a separate thing, because I think we might want to look at that going
at some point
as a refactoring.
Yeah.
But for now, we'll just stick it here. But we want to test drive it.
Right. So
I know it's so tempting. Let me just go ahead and add in this endpoint
here.
Since this is a new endpoint, we want to start with the MVC test.
Oh, right. I knew I was in the wrong spot. There we go.
And we're going to basically want to test that does a post to the endpoint, and it should return, in this case, it should return a 200 because it's going to return data. Either is it Danny Panny or Dan Pan? Let me know how you want to pronounce it. It's a good question.
Dane Payne.
Any one of the above. It's a good question though. How do you TDD for void methods? Basically, you generally void methods that don't return anything are likely some kind of command. So they're going to be, it's some kind of request to change state somewhere. And so how you test that, in fact, almost all tests are testing a void method with the requirement that you have some way of observing that change. So if you look at our, these tests are sort of framework tests, so they don't really count. But if we look at some of our other tests, you want to bring up a random test. Yeah. So here, this is still at the framework level. Let's bring up a test that's not at the framework level. Something in the domain or application. Yeah. This might not be good either because we don't have much behavior on a song.
Yeah.
Let's look at application. Yeah, let's look at column mapper test.
Well, that's it. It's searching for an empty string now in the result.
Let's scroll down a bit. Yeah, so we're not testing commands directly. These are all things that return stuff. Um, let's look at the TSV song parser test. Yeah, so these are actually none of these are commands. So we may not have a great example of that. So so generally what you're going to do is pretty much you set up your test, you execute that command, which is going to be a void method, and then you're going to do a query. To something has to tell you that the state has changed. So the state started at this point, you executed the command, and the state in some way changed, and it has to be observable. If it's not observable, then I can, then how do what is the command doing? And sometimes this can be tricky. If, for example, the only thing that happens is you write stuff to a database, well, then in your test, you have to read back from the database and see, okay, that's now in the database. But what if it's just that you sent out information to a third-party service? This is where most people, for better or for worse, mostly for worse, would use something like Mockito and add a spy or a mock and detect that the thing was called. There are better techniques than that. Um, Still using the idea of a test double of like a spy, um, but I think there are better ways to spy than using Mockito, because Mockito leads to very code that's just hard to understand and slow to run. But you basically are substituting what Gerard Mazzaros in his book XUnit Test Patterns calls indirect outputs, right? So I basically say, hey, I'm playing a game of blackjack, I get a card dealt, and we want to send off information to a third-party service. How do I know it did it? Is I'd have to substitute the real thing with something that I can then observe. Oh, look, a message came through saying this player got this card. And so it's this indirect output that test doubles are really what you want. And so you're going to need some way of, in a sense, tapping into what would have been sent out by your code to this external thing. Did it send the thing that we expected? So my preference these days is to use James Shore's output tracker technique. One of the things you'll find if you watch my TDD game streams is since we're already generating events in the domain, so if you're using something like event sourcing or domain events, you can just tap into those. Did this domain event get generated? And just tap into wherever that would have gotten sent. And so it applies in no matter sort of what you're doing, you're always tapping into replacing the real connection, the concrete thing that's talking to some external service, and you're replacing it with something that in memory you can ask what messages got sent, what information would have gotten sent, and especially if you're using something like DDD plus hexagonal architecture, makes it really easy because you just replace your concrete adapter with a test double. So I don't avoid mocking. So mocking is a term that is confusing because what do you mean by mocking? Sometimes people, when they say mocking, they mean using the tool Mockito and write the word mock in their code. That is a form of mocking using a tool that I do not like. So I avoid Mockito unless I'm in a situation where I don't have a choice. As legacy code is sometimes like that. But mocking itself, the term I prefer is using test doubles. So the idea is replace a real thing, something that tests against IO, and replacing it with something that I can verify in memory. So mocking doesn't indicate so test doubling is not indicating of a bad design, it's indicating actually of a good design. If I can replace something with something else and be assured that it did the right thing, that it interacted with this external thing correctly, then that's actually what you want. And a lot of times you're not going to need to create what is technically called a mock, which is a self-verifying SPI. A lot of times a stub will be just fine.
Do you have a particular previous stream video that has you go through test doubles and
Yeah,
all
so
that
funny you
stuff?
should mention that. So I've got a video on hexagonal architecture, and I go through test doubles and how that works, and what the code looks like, and what the tests look like in that scenario. So if you check out jitterted.tv and look for hexagonal architecture, you'll find it. I also have a course that I promised folks I will be reopening, which is refactoring to testable hexagonal architecture. That'll be opening up this month. And I have a bunch of, not just so one of them is a presentation, basically an hour or so presentation on hexagonal refactoring to hexagonal architecture. But I have a bunch of videos where I basically go through that. If you're interested in sort of longer form stuff, a bunch of streams that I've recorded that talk about that. And of course, we're using hexagonal here, and I use it on my stream. So there's no shortage of, if you've got time to videos to watch for that. And yes, as Jonas did, I also have a Discord where we have an entire channel dedicated to this kind of stuff. Actually, several channels on testing and hexagonal testable architecture and things like that. All right. So do we have our endpoint test?
Yeah, where were we? We were doing that in. We were going to do it in Son theme searcher test, right? Did we write it yet, or we were just starting to when we went off?
I think you had just generated the test method.
An empty test, yeah. What
Yeah.
was that? Oh, it was MVC.
It was
test,
MVC test, yes.
There we go. Okay, and we were testing posting.
Yes, posting to that endpoint we just defined, which was themes, and that just returns 200. Yeah. Okay, I have to rant a little bit.
Okay.
Clean architecture is not hexagonal architecture. Hexagonal architecture is not clean architecture. Despite what our Dallas says, where, oh, who cares? It doesn't matter. It matters. Words matter, definitions matter, and clean architecture and hexagonal architecture are not the same thing. They're very similar, but they use different terminology. Clean is, for whatever reason, very popular in .NET. It seems to be the dominant architecture other than vertical slice. I don't know why that is. Hexagonal was there first. The main difference is clean subdivides things into the domain and application layer, which I am in favor of. What I don't think clean does as good a job as is focusing on inbound and outbound adapters. But hexagonal and clean are similar, just like onion is similar. And all of these testable architectures are similar because they're all trying to do the same thing, is separate IO from your core domain. Hexagonal explicitly, as Alistair Coburn emphasized in his book that just came out, he does not separate a application layer from some domain layer. So what I'm doing is not hexagonal. I do, and I'm actually starting to stop calling it hexagonal because it is, what I do is not hexagonal. But I just had to say that because this is how semantic diffusion happens, is because people stop caring about using words precisely. And it really upsets me because it means that now it's harder for people to communicate. This is what's happened with other terms, and it takes no effort to use the right terms. And so I'm kind of annoyed at people who's like, it doesn't matter. It's like, it does matter, because now I can't talk to you and you can't understand me, because we're using the same words and now they mean different things. So sorry, I had to rant about that. So basically, I call it the DDD plus hex architecture, because it is hexagonal influenced, definitely, and I like the shape of hexagonal. But it's clear Alistair and I differ on the need for having a separate domain layer from application. So, all right.
Tedgonical?
No.
Tedagon?
I mean, basically, I put it under. So often when I talk about these days, I just talk about testable architecture. In fact, I have a course. I'll be renaming my course to something more like that. Yeah. And I think it's really, I think it actually is extremely helpful to separate the domain layer from the application layer. I don't want to go too deep into it right now, but basically, if you have a DDD, if you have enough domain, it's worth it to have a separate layer, because then that layer can be completely ignorant of IO. And you therefore will never use test doubles in your domain layer, because it's not even aware that IO exists. Hardware doesn't exist. It's just running in RAM. That's all. That's its entire universe. And I think that's helpful. Yeah, and there's all sorts of stuff around vertical slice, and I think some of these are compatible with each other. You can do vertical slice plus clean plus hexagonal plus domain driven. I think you can do them all. It's a matter of some of it's a matter of how do you organize your code, which is very different in .NET than Java. So, all right, so let's get back to doing our post. So we want to post to our endpoint, and let's import. Do an alt enter there.
There we go.
Yep. And then we'll expect. Yep. I think here we want to be very precise. We don't want to accept any just general successful. Here, I think we want to be precise that is okay. All right. So if we run this, what do we expect?
Well, the endpoint doesn't even exist, so what happens when the endpoint doesn't exist?
We get a 404.
404? Okay.
Yeah. All right. So let's run. We can just run this test class.
I'm going to stop the server. It's been running for a while.
Oh no.
You really wanted to
give it a break?
Okay. You should just run this test?
Yeah. Yeah, that's sort of the sense I get, since it's really interesting. And I'm not sure if it's just sort of the bubble I've fallen into because of social media reinforcing certain things, but it seems like the only people talking about testable architectures like clean and mostly clean are .NET folks. I see very few, at least on social media, Java folks talking about any kind of testable architecture, whether it's hexagonal or clean. There's just not as much chatter. Whereas I can probably name 5 people who I follow who post significantly and fairly frequently on clean architecture in .NET. So .NET seems to have really embraced it. And I don't know what the heck people are doing in the Java world. You'll see one conference talk, one talk per conference in Java or Spring talk about sort of clean architecture, even though it's not really clean the way they're describing it. It's usually some combination of things. But it's really interesting. Like it doesn't seem to have the mind share in the Java community. So it's like, I don't know what the heck architectures and designs people are doing. Maybe it's all ad hoc, and this is why people are having problems. I don't know. All right. Oh, we got our prediction wrong.
We did, but Jonas got it right.
Jonas got it right. Well, 50-50. We'll give Jonas half a point because it was 403 or 401. Like that's better than what we did.
Yep.
So that half a point beats the 0. Yeah, so this one is because we forgot our good old CSR. Did we turn CSRF off? I thought we did. Can we check our security config? We did disable it. So it's not a CSRF. Oh, it is a CRSF, right? Because we don't import this config in our tests. Yes. So let's just add the token. I think that's the easiest way to, or we could disable it for this test. What did we do elsewhere? I know we did this before, so let's go look at our other MVC test. That's that one. What did we do here? Did we have a post? We must have had a post. Yeah, there it is. So we did with CS. Okay, so let's do the same thing.
Is that right?
Yes, you just need a dot before the width. Yep, that's right. So now that should pass. Yeah, I don't know if woohoo, but Spring Security.
Maybe woohoo said ironically.
Now it should be the 404, right?
Yeah.
Yes, Jonas got it right. That's a 1.5 points for you. Yeah, I don't know. This has been happening for a while, Simon. I feel like with all the shiny technology, front-end frameworks, things like that, design and architecture, I feel like got pushed to the wayside a bit. It could just be that's old man yells at cloud. I'm not sure. Get off my lawn. I don't know. But I feel like people interpreted certain recommendations the wrong way, like don't do this big design up front, turned into don't do any design up front. And there is a lot of fashion stuff going on. I feel like at least the popularity, at least in my sphere, my bubble of HTMX is sort of reinforcing like, hey, maybe hypermedia was a good idea. And we shouldn't do all this, front end crap with all these complicated, over-engineered frameworks. Unfortunately, the hip crowd, they make more money. If you publish stuff and sell stuff that's the latest hippest technology, you get much more attention than like, hey, let me just teach you solid, not SOLID, but like fundamental principles. Fashion-driven development, definitely.
I love the image on this one too.
Yeah. And that has not changed since the
when that was
years.
Published 2013.
Yeah,
11 years ago.
It hasn't changed. And like fashion is great, but it doesn't last very long, and you have to constantly hop on the latest bandwagon, and no, not for me. Yeah, there definitely is a lot of resume-driven development. I feel like that has not helped.
Yeah.
That's kind of hilarious. Blazor just went back to server render by default. It's like, just render it on the server. It's got all the state, and just push out the HTML. Oh, Jonas had a little celebrate. Should have we should have a prediction game with like how you know who has the most correct predictions for our tests. All right. So we now fails as expected, right? So it now fails with a 404, and now let's do the minimal amount of work to get it to pass. Lowercase o.
I know.
You could have done PM.
I know. I was starting to, and then whatever, midway through.
Changed your mind midway through.
Yeah. This returns a void, right? Yep.
Well, okay. This post is not is should this be a post, I guess, is the question. This really shouldn't be a post. This should actually be a get, because it's a query. Why is that example doing a post? Did I just misread it? And it actually should be, yeah, it is doing a post. No, that's kind of hilarious, because like one of the fundamental aspects of REST is using the verbs correctly. And post you can do for search if like it's a complicated search and might have some amount of time to actually run, or if the search is complex enough that you actually do need to put it in the body. But this should be a get. This should be a query, because it's basically fine. Just I'm querying stuff. So yeah, so let's change our test.
Before we do anything, let's change the test.
Yeah, Jonas has 1.5 points. We should have a leader poll for viewers who predict correctly. That's what I intended. It's like, maybe I'll figure something out. Yet another side project that I'll have to create a little app that tracks that. All right, so we do want to perform a get. We don't need with CSRF because we're not doing a post. But you lost a close paren.
Right. Just to,
keep me on my toes.
That's how I roll. Yeah. Oh, I second. Nope. Shift J?
Yes.
Yeah. Now run it again. Should get a 404.
Yes, run it again. We should get a 404. Excellent.
Yep.
So now we certainly don't want to return void. We just said it's a get mapping, and it's going to return stuff. So the question is now, what is it going to return?
An array of strings, or a list of strings, or?
So what we want is basically HTML. Because what's going to happen is it's going to take whatever's returned from this and basically stuff it into the DOM, stuff it into the page.
Right.
So it's just a string. Now this is going to be a bit confusing because we're in a regular web controller. So we're going to have to do some stuff, but not until we have a test that drives it. So yeah, so let's give the method a name. Maybe we want to call it something other than just themes, and we don't need the model just yet. In fact, I don't think we ever need the model.
Um,
How about autocomplete themes? What do
like
you think
that.
of that? Yeah, what do you think?
So this is the list of themes that the autocomplete will be using. Now this
Yeah,
is dynamic though. That's what's interesting about this is it's querying over and over again.
yes.
Is that going to be? Is that going to feel slow?
No.
Okay.
I mean,
'Cause-
it'll be whatever latency the connection between your browser and the remote system. So if we certainly when it's deployed in production, there might be a 200 millisecond delay if somebody's reasonably far away. But that still is within the realms of what you want in terms of response time.
Got it. Okay.
So Jonas suggested the name query themes, which is what initially popped into my head. But I kind of like autocomplete themes. But what do you think?
Oh, query in the sense of which specific themes.
Yeah.
I think I prefer autocomplete because it's more domain specific.
Yeah, it feels like it
Like,
tells you like what it's for. The input is theme query, although that may be subject to change. But I think that I like autocomplete themes as the method. Yeah, don't tempt me, Simon. I might actually do that. We'll see. Yeah, with the chat integrations would be interesting. So we got to return something. We can return an empty string. So what do we expect now?
because we're not checking the content, we're just checking that it's okay.
It's a bit of a trick question.
Yeah. It's
So
gonna fail, right?
this is going to fail because what right now the way this is configured is the return value here is not content, but the name of a view. And so there's no
Oh.
view name that's an empty string. In fact, you can probably see faintly IntelliJ having the little gray wavy
Oh
underline
yeah, right here.
because it basically says cannot resolve view with an empty name. That's fine. Let's run it, make sure it fails in that way, and then we'll fix it, except not in the typical way. And then Abdul, I'll get to your question in a bit. So as expected, it's like, I can't find a template with an empty name.
Right.
Yeah.
Because it's expecting it to be a template.
Yeah. Now, we don't actually want it to be the name of the template. We want to be able to directly return HTML. So what we have to say is another annotation on this method, which is exactly what is being suggested.
Wow. That wasn't me.
I know. So what response body does is it says, oh, take the response, the string we return, and that's the body of the message that we return. So don't treat it as a view name, treat the return value as this is what will be returned as content. Unless you've downloaded the documentation, it won't tell you much more.
Yeah, I just didn't get much info.
We can do that later. So now it should pass because now it will say, okay, you want to return an empty string as your content? We'll do that. Boom.
Okay.
All right. Well, let's commit since we got a test passing.
Well, actually, it's themes endpoint.
But we also started. We did. I don't think we committed before we added the HTMX stuff.
Oh, right.
So all that is new as well.
Is that even working? No.
We don't know actually.
Yeah.
We won't know until we actually write something better than the return of an empty string.
Right. Something like that.
Yeah, good enough.
Okay.
All right. So let me address Bill's question, which is a common one, and I I need to publish a video on this because it comes up.
Oh,
It
this one.
won't. It
Yeah.
doesn't come up every stream, but it comes up almost. It feels like almost every stream. Certainly at least once a week, because it's a really good question, which is where do you do validation? And there are two kinds, and it's the way I think about it is there's two kinds of validation. There's domain specific validation in your objects, and then and this is where the layering that I use, which is dd plus hex, which is hexagonal, but where I have a domain layer. Those kinds of things you test and implement and validate in your domain layer. But as suggested, sometimes you need to check the database. That's in the application layer. So the application layer, as part of it doing its job for saying, for example, register user, and you want to make sure that that email address isn't already there, that's the application level code. So the first thing it would do is go and check the database. Is this email address in use? If it is, immediately return with a result saying, hey, this email address is already registered. If it's fine, then you can continue with whatever the domain needs to happen. So yeah, so there's some validation that's going to have to happen in whether you call it service layer, application layer. I prefer actually Alistair's terminology, which is use case layer. Although he calls it application because the whole thing is application. But the use case layer is the one that has access to I/O. And this again is why I like the separation between the domain layer and the application layer or the service layer, because in the domain layer, you can't access the database. It doesn't exist in your world. So therefore, the only validations you can do is this object valid? Is this request to change state valid? Then there's the additional part, which is don't forget about the validation that happens in the adapter. Here, this is domain free. And what I mean by domain free is you're doing things that, is this thing empty? Is this thing not null? Is this actually a number? Those kinds of validations happen at that level. And you will end up with some duplication of validation across these layers, because your application layer cannot trust that the adapter did the right thing. And it's not that I don't trust you to be a professional and do the right thing. It's we as humans make mistakes. And so a lot of this is about the protection of preventing mistakes. Mistakes happen. Oops, I forgot to check to make sure that this thing was a number, and I just passed it through and it turns out it's not a number. Your application layer better check that as well. Yeah, it took me years many years to figure this out, and with sort of relating it to the different parts of the DD plus hex architecture really helped. Like just by saying domain, it doesn't know anything about the outside world, so it can't do any validation of like, does this email address already exist? So therefore that happens in this layer. And it makes it then very easy to figure out where those validations go. And yes, using the term boundary versus business is basically adapter versus domain, same idea. All right, our test pass and we committed. I think the next step is let's return something hard coded on line 28 and see if that gets inserted into our HTML. So let's put it in. Let's just return some paragraphs. So we're going to write some HTML here with a P and then a theme. That's not far off, but we can just use a single word as a theme. And then let's close that tag and sure, why not? Cats and dogs living together. That should be fine. So let's run the app and see what happens. So domain services are interesting. Domain services to me are used when you're sort of doing cross object validation. So you shouldn't be calling from a value object into a domain service. I would not. Well, I mean, I would not do that. To me, if it's a domain service, it should be doing the validation before it creates the value object. So it sort of depends on sort of what might be or not be valid. Value objects are generally going to be small and should self-validate, but they should not have dependencies. I kind of think of, if you think of it as sort of, these nested layers, value objects are sort of the innermost things that don't depend outward. They don't depend on any kind of service. Entities the same way. Entities should not depend on services. So if you look at, and I think clean architecture draws it this way, is that domain services are outside of entities value objects. At least that's the way I mentally think about it. So if you want validation, if a domain service needs to validate because it needs to validate, let's say, start date and end date, and they can't be reversed and they can't be the same, right? Because you're going on you're scheduling an event. Well, okay, maybe they can be the same day, but can't be the same start and end time. Then you're talking about cross object validation, and that would either go in an entity or in a domain service if necessary. All right, let's start typing in the input.
Wow.
That was not entirely unexpected. um,
Log
we
back
need
in.
no, we need to add that endpoint to our security config.
Oh, right.
That kind of situation is what makes things a little bit more difficult. So we need to add it there to line 19 that we permit all.
Okay. Restart.
Yeah, that you're gonna have to restart. Now I saved you that click.
What?
You said before I saved you a
Oh,
click.
right.
Like,
Yeah,
no,
yeah,
not
yeah.
yet. Now I
Not yet. Now
get
you
to
do.
cash in.
Yes. As in CASH.
Right.
Sorry, dad joke. Okay, so let's go back. Let's restart this page. Type C. A. D.
That's interesting.
Let's go back and look at
We
the.
clearly were getting something.
Oh,
So
how did
let's
you see that?
Well, because before we were getting a security thing, so clearly it
Right.
was being invoked. Let's make this a bit wider so we can open the inspect section. Let's open up the body and the form and so because we put it as HX post. We changed it to get, but we didn't change it here.
Right. Was it this file?
Yeah.
Yeah. Restart.
Only one. Well, only one T in get.
Picky.
Yeah. So you don't have to restart if you do. If you put the
build.
if you go to build, recompile, and then refresh the page. That should do it. Go to the browser and refresh the page. Did you mean
That's weird.
Did you mean to click on that? You wanted to click on the refresh button.
Oh shoot. Yeah, I meant to click here.
Okay. So now you can keep that open. There we go. And it's always going to return the same result because we hard coded it. But at least now we know this is what it looks like.
Got it. I was gonna show what the end game is. I wonder if that would help with knowing where we're heading. This was that that one, this guy, I think it was that sort of along the line of like,
right.
Actually, I should have shown, what was it? Yeah. So here it's like the names of movies. So I could type, GOD starts reducing.
Right.
And then when you pick one, you pick it, and then you could do another one, like.
Right.
So that's kind of the.
Right. And the technical term for these apparently is a pill because it's shaped like a pill.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
So this is sort of the end game we're shooting for.
Right.
Something like this.
Right.
Just to give folks context.
So Jonas mentions an example of validation of an IP that verifies that at least looks like an IP address, and that's fine. You can examine it and say, does this look like an IP? Is this an IP4, an IP6? They have a very specific format. Doesn't tell you though if it's sort of valid for whatever usage it's valid for. But the constructor or the static method, depending on how you do it, would verify that at least it looks like it could be correct. It's in the correct format. So you could do the same thing for email. Pretty much all you want to validate is there an @ sign, and somewhere after the @ sign is there a dot. That's it. Don't try to write regexes. Please stop. Don't do that. I'm amazed at and frustrated by sites that still do that because some of them don't recognize the plus on the left side, which is totally valid. So don't do that. Then what you want to do is actually send an email to that address and verify that it works. Except even there, you got to be careful. Denial of service. So there are some spammers who basically do these kinds of things, assuming that the site will send out an email saying, please verify your email. But nobody checks that it's actually you. And so there are various, it's like a race to like, ugh, how do you do that? Yeah, you try that and see how well that works for you. First, you got to make sure that ChatGPT is up. And then if you trust it, yeah, you go for it. All right. So what's our next step?
So we want to connect it to. Did we make that service? Yeah, we did, right? Where Where we talk to the repository and say, give us the themes.
Yeah, so we could
well, we
go.
don't have a thing that does the subset, do we? It's just giving us all the themes.
That's true.
We could hold on to all the themes in the server and not hit the
um,
database every time, and instead just.
we could, or we could have a version of the query basically do starts with. So we could either do it in memory, or we could do it. I thought we're like, so I generally think about stuff like caching and so on once we get stuff working. But I think we've got a little ways to go
Early, yeah.
before we need to do that.
And do we want to start with starts with, or contains?
I think they're both just as easy, and presumably you want starts with. That would be my assumption.
Yeah, I have to think about that, because that example I just showed you, again, it's not a where to go. Here it is. It's doing contains.
Right, because it's titles that have multiple words.
Right.
Themes generally have one, maybe 2 or 3 words, but I would think they're all phrases.
Yeah,
so you're not going to. You probably don't want to like start with Y and then it come up with New Year's. That feels wrong for me.
Yeah, it starts with.
So I think starts with is what we want.
And like you said, if it turns out to be a problem later on, we can.
That's easy to change. Yeah.
Yep.
Let's look at our Jira. We'll probably want to also do a commit since we got stuff working. So we might want to break this down a bit more from the UI standpoint. So we have start typing and returns text, or returns HTML. So we got that working.
Well, just
returns HTML of
all themes.
Well, right now it's basically just hard coded. So I think it just returns HTML that gets put in the right place.
Yeah.
Yes, Jira text is the best Jira.
Yeah.
So we got that done, and the next thing we want is I think a question of how much more do we want to put on the UI. I think we could do some more on the back end, but I think it's the UI that's the more difficult aspect, or more unknown. Let's put it that way. So what do you think we want to do next?
Part of me is wondering, do we see how that tool, or that whatever it's called, the HTML component that we're looking at, what its needs are, and so that we move in that direction? Or
Well,
we
can't use that component because that's a React component.
Oh, at all? We can't use it, period.
Yeah, we can't use any predefined component because none of them are going to do what we want to do.
Oh, I thought we found one that would work for us.
No, what we're doing is using those as telling us how to implement the HTML side of things.
Got it. Okay.
We're gonna because they all assume that you've preloaded all of the choices. Not to mention that the React one is React, and we can't use that anyway.
Right. Oh, for some reason I thought one of them was an HTMX based one or something like that. I didn't look at them closely.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no,
it's from a usability standpoint.
Right, and that's
implementation
right.
standpoint.
Right, and so we're gonna be implementing this mostly from scratch.
Okay, that I didn't know. Cool. Learn something new every day, right?
So then that's why like this part is the least known, because we got to figure out how we want the
Right. Because
basically
right now
a
it's
little bit of CSS and a little bit of HTML, and how we want to pull all those together.
right.
So we can go down the road of get the back end producing the right data, so being able to search, do partial searches with a starts with, or we can say that's easy to figure out. The next step is okay, we got some HTML coming back, but how do we make it so that we can select one of those?
Right. Because right now it's just paragraphs in a div.
Right. So
What
we want,
visual component could we use? We kind of want.
so what we could do is sort of to start with, right below the input field, we could have a drop down, and the contents of that drop down changes as you type.
Mm. So then there wouldn't be a paragraph anymore. Now they would be. I forget what a drop down needs. I can look at it over here. Oh,
Basically needs options. So we already we already
right.
do that actually right below, right? We already
Yeah,
have
exactly.
in the HTML that you've already got open.
Oh,
Just
oh,
scroll
this
down.
one here it is. Okay.
Yeah. So we
Right.
just
So you
need
put it.
we just need options for each one.
So then, so
Yeah.
does that mean it would be an array of strings?
No, remember, it's just HTML. So it's one HTML blob. So in that string is going to be multiple options. And so we're going to generate that HTML on the back end and then just dump it over to the front end.
I see. So this themes plural is a bunch of paragraphs. Is that what you're saying?
No, it's so we're going to do is we're going to generate HTML on the back end that is option name equals this, value equals this, content.
Oh,
Right. So we're going to
got it.
generate a bunch of option HTML elements on the back end.
Got it. Right. So it's not going to be using the th part.
Yeah,
We're going
because
to
we're
be
not using
basically
time leaf, right?
right.
And that's a choice. We could use a time leaf fragment that would do this for us.
Yeah, I
We
don't know
could
the
try
pros
that.
and
That's
cons.
not the way I've been doing my stuff, but it doesn't mean that it's wrong. It just means that
Yeah.
I have different needs for some of my stuff. I find it a bit easier to test, but for this kind of stuff, it's not that much more difficult. So up to you which way you want to go.
I think going with the option HTML. I mean,
Right.
it's
I guess the option was, do we generate the HTML ourselves, or do we use time leaf to generate it for us?
what is the advantage of doing time leaf other than a dependency? Or the disadvantage is it's
It
depending
means
on
we don't
time
have to
leaf.
generate the HTML. We just
Right.
create an HTML file that just has the option in it with the for each, with the th each, and let it generate it by putting it in the model, or we generate it ourselves using basically string concatenation.
Feels like a coin toss to me.
Feels like a what?
A coin toss. So I don't have a
Oh,
strong.
okay. Then let's generate the HTML ourselves.
Okay.
Hey, Falafel. Yeah, you're a little late. It's okay. Better late than never, as they always say. Yeah, and the reason why I like to generate the HTML myself, it makes it a bit more testable. But also I'm sort of heading towards, I want to create a bit more of a component, like a UI component like design, where the front end HTML plus some of the behavior is connected in some way. I still haven't quite figured out how to do that. I've looked at um, Thomas Schule's view component stuff, but it doesn't quite fit the model that I have in my head. So I'm still sort of trying to figure that out. Still doesn't answer the question though of, do we want to focus on the UI? Is that what we said?
Oh, you said the UI was a little bit more unknown, so I was
Right.
going for the unknown.
Okay.
It's harder
So then,
and prioritize the unknown over the known.
So the next step would be to show the choices in some kind of drop-down like list.
Did you say like list?
Yeah, because we may not end up using the
Drop-down proper.
raw HTML drop-down thing. It's likely we will. Well, I'm not 100% sure. So we might or might not use it, depending on styling and so on.
Gotcha. I want to go back to, where did that guy go? Oh, I guess I must have closed it.
Yeah, so I believe the one you were showing.
This one.
I don't know if that's actually a drop down. You'd have to inspect it to see.
Could be a list, yeah.
Yeah, or it could just be a div that's being generated. Yeah, it looks like it's a div. So it's got an input. That's the input field like we have with autocomplete off and so on. And then it's got the div.
With a button.
No, I think it has to. That's the button for that you see on all the way on the right that right now is hidden. I think what you want to do is
oh yeah, collapse the left side.
Can we do that?
I don't know. Let's try it.
Nope.
The other way around. What about this one?
Let's actually just. You can just. Let's just make that smaller. So what we want to do is we want to look at when it's dropped down what this thing is.
I'll let you drive.
So let's do. Let's do that. So somewhere in here, it's not in there.
It's behaving like a drop down or a list.
It's hard to see because it keeps going away when
when
you select
click
something here. I think it's not the field set. Can you press Control-Shift-C?
Mm-hmm. Do you want to do Control-Shift-C while you're hovering over that?
Yeah, can you try that? See if that works. No, it basically changes focus, and so it's. Let me do this. Yeah, this stuff is so hard to inspect, and we can close this. Let's close that. So that's just that field set. I'm not sure where it is. It's weird. It's like it's outside
the body. Is it outside the body? That's crazy.
It's hard because this is a code sandbox thing. There's basically an iframe, but I don't.
Oop. No. There we go.
So it's down here. This is the popper. So it looks like there's a div here. Yeah, and of course it disappears.
Of course, it goes away when you click. Yeah.
So it's this guy. But yeah, I can't figure out. So, but it looks like it's a div and it's not a dropdown. Is what I suspected anyway. We'll have to. This is something I'll do offline. Is look at this one, and there's another implementation that I want to look at. But pretty much, and it's unsurprising because what you want is a little bit more control over the design and layout. And so what this does is you click the button or you start typing. So as you start typing, and it's unfortunate that it loses focus. But
I guess we could implement it instead of being in a sandbox and then inspect it.
Yeah, but basically the main thing that we care about is that it's what we'll want is something like a div that displays all the choices, and then when you what's inside the div, yeah, I'll have to offline figure that out, because I actually did take a quick look at the implementation of this component itself. It's actually not hard to read. If you know anything about, if you know a little bit about TypeScript, it's not terribly difficult. So yeah, well, we'll figure that out offline.
I'll move this out of the way.
Yeah. Yeah, so we could just go into the the component and look at it, but basically, what I think we want is since we want. I mean, I think we can start with a drop down, an actual drop down, and then migrate to the other mechanism. Although since we're pretty much at the end of today's stream, maybe we just leave that as is. And the next step then is basically figure out the different pieces that we need.
Right. And then we would filter. Well, there'll come a point when we need to filter.
Yeah, and so once we need to actually filter, that part will be relatively straightforward because that's just back end, and we can decide: do we let the database do the narrowing down, or do we cache it in memory and filter it down in memory?
Like how I put some empty stories there.
Yeah. to be filled in as homework. Yeah, let's commit.
Refreshing my memory. Right. Oh, right.
Yep.
Sounds good. Commit and push.
I think so. What are we selling? What are we celebrating, Astrid? We celebrating the end of the stream or that you're back? Happy to celebrate either way.
Celebrate anyway. That's a good mantra.
I wish StreamYard supported overlay videos, but I have not been able to figure out how to do that. I can add an overlay, but I can't add an overlay as a video. Oh, that we're still here. Well, we're not here for much longer. I'm glad you dropped by again. Anything else we want to do?
Yeah, I'm just trying to think if there's anything quick and simple we can do. Not really.
Yeah, so what's left is figure out. So we're going to figure out the HTML, CSS for the drop down, which will then drive what HTML we're going to return from that endpoint. And we'll also have to figure out for the multiple theme. Did we handle multiple themes in the search before? I forget what we did. Can we look at that?
When you say look at that, meaning looking at the implementation?
Well, we can look at the implementation of the searcher.
You mean this?
No, I want to look at the code.
All implementation. Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So search by theme in the song service, is that a single theme?
Looks like it. Because if you look at our Jira, we did talk about single selection.
Right. I was just thinking, so even when we have multiple themes on the front end, we don't have support for finding by multiple themes. Is that correct?
Certainly seems that way.
I mean, we'd probably want to look at our tests. That's too high level. We want to look against the service. So song service test. SST. Uppercase. Do we not have tests against the song service?
Yeah, now I'm wondering.
Oh, you were looking at files. That's why it didn't.
Oh, I was in files, not class.
Yeah. So we got the song service test base. That's what we want. So multiple songs. So let's look at the list of methods. So added songs are saved, add song, bulk add song, malformed, multiple songs added or found.
Find that theme singular.
Yeah. So we don't support multiple themes. Did we define what that behavior is? I know we talked about it before, but I don't remember what we defined.
I don't know.
Well,
Look in Jira.
see if Jira has it. I would suggest looking for something a bit more
Yeah, I know. I'm trying to think of
unique, like multiple.
Yeah, only 9 hits.
So we got multiple songs that match a theme. We have songs with multiple themes.
Add a song, multiple themes.
Right. Multiple songs we process. Looks like we did not. We did not specify it.
Yeah.
So what do we want to have? So this goes back to sort of what do we want the search to do if you if you search for multiple themes? Does it show only the songs that have all of the themes you asked for?
Oh, I see. I would think both.
Both meaning
songs that match either theme.
Okay, so basically, so it's an implied or.
Yes.
Okay. Right, because then that's where ranking comes in. It's like if you enter 3 themes, do you rank songs that match 2 higher than those that only match 1? Or is it who cares? It's, as long as it matches, we don't care.
Yeah, it's an interesting one.
Hi, Jonas. Have a great rest of your day.
Yeah, have a good one. Yeah, it's interesting. Like, would ranking be useful? In a way, I won't really know till we get some data in there. We do some test searches just to see.
Yeah.
What is it like?
Well, let's put that down because we can't obviously process multiple select unless there's a way of searching for multiple selections.
I don't like the wording of that.
I was going to say searching for songs with, so searching. Can you hit escape to turn off the search? Searching for songs with multiple themes returns songs matching any theme. And you maybe put in parentheses like an implied or. Yeah, I think it'd be hard to experiment with the spreadsheet because it's strictly one per column.
So it'd be kind of weird.
There's no way to say find me on any of these themes. It's just across multiple columns. It's just no. I agree. I think that's a good way to start. And whether we want ranking is the open question. So maybe indented from that is so underneath and indented is figure out figure out if we want ranking.
Of returned songs, meaning are songs with 2 themes. I don't know why I put quotes around that. Of a higher rank.
I would say are songs matching having or something like are songs matching 2 themes ranked higher than matching only 1.
Yeah.
Right. And this is the sort of the benefit of doing ranking is you don't have to then explicitly say I want an and or an or. It's or. I mean, this is why search engines do what they do. They're generally ors using ranking. And that's generally more useful than sort of a strict and. And where it gets interesting, although I don't know that we have enough data to do that, is you can start looking for semantic links. Like, find me more songs like this.
Right.
Which it could do
That's
because it could
yeah.
use the themes that one has as then an entry of a search. So you could do that. Like
It is
find me.
certainly increasing the scope of the project.
Well,
Yeah.
that's certainly a nice to have.
Yeah.
We've got a lot of other stuff to work on before that. Or not. Maybe that's a user feature that you want to add ahead of contributor features.
Right. Yeah. Who knows?
All right. I think that does it for today then.
Wrapping up. Sounds good.
So schedule for the rest of the week. Tomorrow I'll be streaming solo, and that's all I know.
I'll be on the radio.
Yeah, Mike will be on the radio if you want to listen. So tomorrow I'll be streaming. Thursday, I don't know. I might stream. Friday, I don't know. I might stream. And that's the week. And as always, if you want to stay as up to date as possible, join the Discord, because I announce week's schedule sometimes on Sunday nights, sometimes on Mondays, but I do try to do it in advance. And of course, there's lots of channels to talk about the stuff that we do on stream. So join the Discord. Yeah, it actually didn't like the word creep. It auto-modded that word. Sometimes it's interesting the words that Twitch decides to auto-mod, which I totally get. But scope creep is a fine term. All right. Anything else you want to say, Mike?
No, I'm good.
All right.
It was fun.
Yeah, that was good. So so at some point next week, I'm sure we'll continue picking it up from there.
Definitely.
I'll have done a bit of homework to figure out at least the next steps for the CSS and HTML to have a nice autocomplete dropdown. Until then, I'll see you on my solo stream tomorrow, and have a great rest of the day.
Take care.